moved to the farm in 2003. I was in the middle of doing my master's in theology and thought, hey, why don't we move to the farm? So my wife and I, we moved down to the family farm. It was vacant at the time, and started farming with my dad, who wasn't, he had grown up on the farm, but he was a retired engineer, and so we started farming together. And I said right away, you know, like I wanted to do organic. That was what I wanted to do. He was a little bit nervous about that, wasn't sure, but he went to an OCIA Chapter 8 meeting and met some of the great folks like Kevin Beach and Danny Rempel, and then one of our neighbors, Wayne Sully, was at the same meeting, and that really helped Dad come along on that. And so we transitioned to organic right away. And actually, Wendy, I think that Dennis was our first inspector. I think that we had. I think you were they came the next year. But we transitioned to organic in 2004. I think was our first certified organic crop, and we did that for 4 or 5. Yeah, well, we farmed together for about 5 years, into the really nice years of 2007. And I mean, that was just a highlight when, you know, just organic prices just went through the roof that year. That was great. Unfortunately, Dad got cancer in 2008 and passed away later in 2008. And I went through a bit of an existential crisis. Wasn't sure if I could do the farming on my own. We ended up moving to Saskatoon for a year and did some soul searching there. And then over the course of that time, decided to move back to the farm. But I didn't think I could do the grain farming. I don't have a mechanically oriented bone in my body, but we had a handful of cows before. I really liked dealing with the animals, and I thought, you know, I could do that. I could manage enough to run a tractor and a baler and a swather, but so we did that. So we moved back and bought a herd of cattle, and then certified them organic in 2012, started the transition back. I put all the land into alfalfa when we had left, just to kind of give it a break. And so then we transitioned into organic cattle in 2012. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what that experience was like. I didn't certify in 2015 or this year my cattle, but I broke up a little bit of alfalfa and certified the grain. And now I am planning next year, so Wendy or Nancy, if you come out, planning to add the cattle back onto our certification. So I want to talk a little bit about my experience with transitioning into organic cattle, why I gave up my organic cattle certification, and why I'm planning to get back in. So really quickly, a few things that I found with the transition. Well, first of all, I was just a cow-calf. When we first started, it was just cow-calf. There was I didn't keep background or yearlings or whatever. So, but I mean, I didn't want to. When I got into cattle, I didn't want to be selling to the auction and selling to the feedlot. That was actually exactly the opposite of what I wanted to do, but I found that was sort of was obligated to do to make some payments on some loans those first couple of years. But then, so when I made the decision to transition to organic, I thought that, you know, I'm going to have to start backgrounding some cows. So if any of you were at the presentation yesterday, I told a little bit about my experience of that, moving from running basically a retreat center for content middle-aged mothers to running a minimum security prison for delinquent restless teenagers, and various struggles with busting out of corrals and busting out of fences and neighbors' phone calls of the cows are in. And then the glorious discovery of electric fencing and how to properly use that. So that was definitely one of the initial challenges was just moving from cow-calf to moving toward backgrounding and finishing. Just a few other kind of minor stumbling blocks that I had with along the livestock end of things. And I mean, there's 2 inspectors in the room here, but one thing I learned real quick, or there's 3, that's actually maybe more, was that I think sometimes, and maybe you guys will disagree, but I think sometimes I gave a bit too much information, not just in terms of, like, we're trying to figure out how much feed did you have per animal, as well, how many animals did you have, and how much did you feed? As well, I had, you know, 72, but then I sold that one on this date, and then, you know, and then I butchered that one, and then we had to try and calculate everything else out, and how much feed per animal, and and when did you, and how much did your bales weigh? And well, I don't know, maybe, and I should have said, 72 animals, 1,200 pounds of bale, let's do the math, let's get it done with. But I found that process of just, you know, it felt like the certification forms weren't really set up for the reality of a system that had changes in numbers and you know, some variety on some of that stuff. But we worked through it with the graciousness of the inspectors. I don't actually think it was either of you two that were out there at that time, but we did work through it. But I found that, yeah, sometimes the forms were not really set up for the realities of the operation. You know, there was a few, I mean, always the fencing thing is always comes up when I talk to people who are thinking about transitioning and the buffers that you have to have. That I thought was going to be a bigger issue than it was, but like I said, when I discovered electric fencing, that it was pretty easy to throw up an electric fence, however many feet off it had to be of the regular fence. But of course it was a production change that I had to get used to, and in years where the grass was, you know, where I was tight on pasture and tight on grass, just seeing that strip of nice ungrazed grass on the edge of my pasture was a little bit tough. You know, little things that did kind of bug me a bit, like, you know, I used blue salt for always, and I didn't think that there was really anything wrong with salt blocks, but then I wasn't allowed to use blue salt blocks, and they told me it was because of the dye, and Gene said maybe because of the canola oil. Somebody had told him that it was kind of, you know. So there's a few little things that I do think the industry needs to catch up. I personally, anyway, that they were just little annoyances to me. And then another one was I had some hay from a few years before I had transitioned, that so it wasn't organic hay, and so I wasn't allowed to feed that to my own animal. And I'm always a little bit touchy about not being allowed to use something I grew on my farm. And sort of the same when we first transitioned to organic and we had our seed, and we had to ask for special permission to use our own seed. And I thought, boy, that sounds really similar to another world of not being allowed to use your own seed on your own farm. And I just was really touchy about that. And so it was the same with the hay that we had that was grown under organic practices, and then you know, but not certified, not being able to use that. But those things were just minor anyway. Those things I was able to deal with. But why I in the end didn't recertify, and in retrospect it was foolish of me, but it was because we had this perfect storm where I certified in 2012 for the transition, had my calves then in 2013 as certified organic, wanted to sell them in 2014. Well, for those of you that are livestock producers, you know, in the spring of 2014 or even early in 2014, the conventional market just ran crazy, right? Like I sold some calves conventionally in 2013, and I think about 50, and then I sold steers, or was it anyway, steers in the spring of 2014 for $250, like backgrounded steers for $250, like a full $1 a pound higher. Anyway, but right at that time when I was selling those were my certified organic ones, and so of course I was talking to our certifiers that I've got organic livestock. Who should I talk to? And of course the answer was Gene Kessler. You got to talk to Gene. So I did talk to Gene, but it was just that perfect storm of the organic prices were not able to keep up with the conventional market at that particular point in time. And so I got a little frustrated, and it didn't work out. I did certify again in 2014, but then I didn't in 2015 and 2016. So that is sort of my story. And so those are sort of some of the frustrations and the whatever. But I am recertifying. I am retransitioning, and so I want to talk a little bit about why I'm retransitioning, and why I would hope that if there's producers here who are who have livestock but are not organic would think about transitioning. Well, for me, the two first things are just for my operation. I'm already organic because I have a little bit of grain land, so I'm certified organic. So I am paying kind of the bulk of those fees anyway. So I'm organic. My hay is organic. So it's not really the fee thing as well. It's going to be a little bit extra for the livestock, but not a whole lot. And Wendy had mentioned we have a restaurant. We're using our beef in our restaurant. I've gotten into that. We are finishing animals. I'm keeping my animals over. So I've made that transition. I think those are the kind of the two biggest stumbling blocks. One is the fees, and one is the backgrounding and finishing animals. But since I'm doing both of those, it seems to me that the next step is kind of a smaller one. I am planning to, and I know I've had conversations with some other people who are selling locally. They've got local markets for their livestock and for their meat, so that, you know, the certification may or may not bring a premium, may or may not be of benefit. I'm kind of in that boat, although I am looking to expand. I'm looking for additional markets. I found I've kind of saturated the local, and I want to do more. I want to keep more animals over. So I'm looking at selling at the farmers market here in Regina or in Moose Jaw or somewhere. And I do think that having that organic stamp will help. And especially what Marion told me the other day, that I can have them butchered at a regular abattoir and I can still call them organic. So that's our understanding anyway, is that that you can do that. So so yeah, so I think that organic label will help me get a little bit of a premium, will open up markets. But that's not the big, the big reason that I want to retransition is because I have, again, done some soul searching and realized, I mean, this is what I believe in. This is where I want to be. I want to be part of the resistance. I want to be part of the resilience. I don't like the feedlot system, and I like, if you heard Liz's presentation this morning, I mean, she just touched on that, but she hardly had to say anything, because we all know that the confined animal feeding operations, they're not good, right? They're not good for our health. They're not good for our environment. They're not good for the animals, and especially but the preventative use of antibiotics and the overuse of antibiotics at those there. And so I'm not doing that. Like I'm not finishing. I'm trying to break free of that system, but I want to do more than just not be part of that system. I want to verbally and, you know, identifiably associate with the resilience, the definition of what's not antibiotic, not confined feeding operations. So I believe in, I want to be part of that. And the other thing I just want to touch on this is my last point, and then I'll turn over to Jean, is that, so just a quick story about our restaurant. So we have this restaurant in a small town. There used to be a hotel that had food, and they closed down. And then just recently they were closed for a while, and then they reopened about a year and a half later. And people would ask me, how do you feel about that? Is that gonna hurt you? Now there's gonna be 2 places and the other places people go to eat. How do you feel about it? I said, I feel great. It's awesome. It's gonna be better. It's better for our town. It's gonna bring more people into our town. We're gonna be busier than ever because there's competition in town, because there's another place that people can eat. Anything that builds our town and brings more people and gets more people in town, spreads the word about our town, is gonna be good for us. The natural instinct is to say the more competition, the worse it is. I don't believe that. I think even though we'll probably talk about markets as we get into some discussion, and I mean, obviously that is a big challenge in the organic livestock world, that the markets are tough to find. So part of us could say, well, maybe we don't need any more organic livestock producers. We want to deter people from being organic livestock producers. And I think the exact opposite is true. I think the more people we get to certify organic, the more spokespeople we're going to have out there, the more product we're going to have out there in the market. And we may struggle with marketing, we may have some tough times, but the more we have doing it, the more good things are going to happen. The more processes are going to come. The more you know, there's going to be opportunities for people to background and to finish. And then the more we're going to be able to get our product out there to a public that I really think is, and I know we've been waiting a long time, some people a lot longer than I have, but I really think that this hungry public is getting hungrier and is getting ready and really, really wants to see that market on the product, or that product on the market. And so I want to be there and ready when it all explodes. So anyway, so that's my story, probably a little longer than I was intending to go, but I'm going to turn it over to Jean now.
We talk about organic, and last year I was part of the exhibition. They did a new food pavilion, and so Clear Creek does organic sausages. So I was out cooking sausage, and I was out in the alleyway passing sausage out. And these 2 good-looking cowgirls come down the alley, and I said, how about some organic sausage? "We have real beef," they said, and away they went. And it just about floored me that people would think that we were something less than the conventional beef. So a lot of times we don't tell our story well enough that, and I guess we don't have to, because we do have a consumer group that really enjoy our products and so on. But it sort of floored me that they were real beef and we were less than normal. So this presentation, can everyone read that? Listen, just take one of our brochures and see what it's all about. In the meantime, you may wish to ask yourself, am I a happy cow? Because part of organic production is not only the market, and I get lots of phone calls, how much is beef worth? Can you buy my calves? And that type of thing. But there's so many reasons to transition into organic production, and we went to the Winnipeg conference, organic conference, was it last spring, and every presentation had livestock as part of the presentation. Livestock should be part of the total operation, and we tend to think, well, geez, we use livestock only solely as an income from the beef, but not realizing it's a part of the component of a total organic program. So I stole this presentation from Laura Telford. She's now with Manitoba government. Asked us to do some presentations on transitioning through COG, Canada, and so I stole this presentation, and I thought, why not use it? So today we're going to talk about the whys, the hows, the whens, and the whats, and it's going to be sort of basic for some of you guys that have been in the production, like old guys like. No, I don't. But it's going to. But for the people that aren't certified now, don't be intimidated by this gray hair around the room. Don't be afraid to ask questions, because that's how you learn, and that's how we want to talk about it. We're going to review a little bit of the standards, and I'm glad that Dennis is here, and that we can talk, make sure that we're on track when we talk about the standards. But protect the environment, minimize soil degradation and erosion, decrease pollution, optimize optimal production, and promote a sound state of health. That's part of the organic general principles of organic. And so when we talk about organic transitioning beef, that we should keep this all in mind, that we're part of the whole system, and that to do livestock production should be part of it. We really want to, I think, we keep talking about green manure. Everyone's green manuring, green manuring, green manuring. We really missing a source of good nutrients when we don't have livestock in our production. I did some test plots this fall myself, or last fall, spreading brown manure, and did strips. And honest to God, they're selling product downstairs in jugs that we could be using right out of our own livestock, because we're missing such a resource in terms of brown manure. I didn't compost it. I just, I spread it. It sat, but it wasn't composted, and it does a tremendous, soil building. Our yield probably was another 20% on those strips. I didn't do a scientific study or anything, but you could absolutely see it in the crop. And so we're really missing a boat. And again, we're talking about organic from something. Oh shit! Or shoot. Maintain biodiversity within the system. Again, part of the standards. I feel that livestock producers use the land 12 months of the year. We in the spring, I turn my cattle out on the stubble, pick up some of the weeds and so on. pardon me, after freeze up or after crops off, we turn them out again. And so I said, we use the product, our management of the land 12 months a year with livestock. Low spots that normally guys are breaking up, you know, we sneak the odd bale out of the slough and that type of thing. So it's definitely a way of diversifying the operation. It provides alternative care to promote health and meet the behavioral needs of the animal. Now, when I was a conventional, and we all seem to evolve out of conventional production. When we used to wean our calves, if one got a snotty nose, you ran them all through, right? Just in case. So you all shot them up, right? And when you, what was the other thing I was going to say? Oh, Ivermectin. I mean, you couldn't farm without Ivermectin, right? I mean, I was at a conference that stock growers asked me to speak at their annual convention. Now that's like, it was interesting, that's what happened. So I mentioned that part of the organic production, we don't use Ivermectin. And this one guy got up and he says, why wouldn't you use Ivermectin? Well, I said, number one, our consumers don't want it. And number two, it stays within the animal. As part of the selling feature of Ivermectin, it stays within the animal 2 years to control internal parasites. He said, bullshit. He says, is there any Ivermectin salesman here? And there was a booth back there, and the guy was standing there. And I said, yeah, is there any Ivermectin salesman here? And he wouldn't come forward because he knew I was right. So by eliminating some of the inputs that we normally accepted as you just needed, right? You couldn't do without Ivermectin. Yes?
How do you deal with like internal parasites and lice and things when you...
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah, I know about diatomaceous earth.
Your herd will build up a resistance. And you know, I tell people this and they don't believe it. When the last year when I was conventional producer, Ivermectin, livestock, you know, and all the things, my vet bill was $7,500. I was either in the vet with cesareans or foot rot and stuff like that. The last year I had my cattle, my vet bill was $75. I bought tags. And your herd is like people. They build up a resistance that you wouldn't believe. And the first year you quit, yeah, there'll be some hair on the barbed wire. But we put out flax straw bales. And it really had the rub. And we talked about the oilers, right? Mm-hmm. With the brushes. Mm-hmm. I was always trying to figure out something that we could put in an oiler that, I thought maybe of mustard seed oil or something like that. Then I was a little too worried that maybe it was too abrasive on the cow. But I just left the brushes out. And they seem to use the brushes.
You're talking the oilers with
the
cows? Just,
with the brushes, yeah. Didn't put anything in it, right? And after a while, it seems unbelievable. The only trouble is you got to be careful bringing animals in. I'll tell another story. I got a lot of them. We had sheep, and I had the shearer at my place, and I fed the sheep really well over the winter, straw or oat bales, and the shearer was shearing. He says, "Oh, what do you use for tick control?" And I said, "I don't use anything." He said, "You're lying." And I said, "Why would I lie?" I said, "If I got ticks, I apologize. There wasn't one tick on those animals. It's a healthy animal. There's no reason for them. The insects attack an unhealthy animal, right? And so the healthier your animal is, the less problems you have." And he still wouldn't believe me. And the wool was about that thick, and there wasn't one tick in it. but I fed them really well, you know, so. But good question. Yeah, you'll be amazed at the amount of how healthy you were. The other thing is we were always calving. You know, you needed the big 700-pound calves in the fall because the neighbor did. You know, it's like my cell phone's bigger than yours and all that kind of stuff. So we started calving later. You know, checking calves in runners is a lot more fun than dressing up in your, you know. And all of a sudden, you're calving. I had no cesareans. You know, it changes the whole mindset of it. You know. You got anything to add on the health or anyone else?
Yeah. Just Chris, with the lice and stuff, we were told like red willows give off a natural resistance, and we better our cattle down in the red willows in the winter, and didn't lose any hair at all. It was pretty incredible actually. Just having the red willows they rub on and give off, it's supposed to have a natural, I don't know what you call it, to help with it, and it was really noticeable, the difference.
I got no evidence of the poplar trees, I didn't do the same thing. I think the trick is not have them too close together, have them lots of room to move around, and concentrate it. If you have one that has a problem, you can have them addressed. In natural behavior, you gotta have room to move around and rub and lay down.
Yeah, and you gotta be careful because there are inspectors in the room too, but you know, we used to cut the neighbors' sloughs and after it freeze up, you know, get all the cattails and stuff like that and use that for a bed. And it was amazing that it was better than straw because they wouldn't eat it. And so it was cheap, right? And it worked really well. So. Good question. So they got to shift their thinking, and that's probably the hardest thing. There's a lot of what I call natural guys that are selling natural meat, and they do nothing but livestock production. They could be certified literally overnight because they don't add anything to the pasture, they're not using antibiotics, most of them, and so on, and yet they can't do it without Ivomec. And it's the darndest thing. And when you consider, well, you know, it costs you $35 a head versus what you can make as an organic producer, it doesn't make economic sense. But it just seems like a crutch that they cannot do without Ivomec. Now, I used Ivomec on my bulls. The certifier and my inspector, I'm up front with him. He's not an organic breeder. He has no offspring, and he doesn't contribute much to the whole process anyway. And so I did Ivomec my bulls. Okay.
Why?
That's probably a better question. You know, I just did. I had leftover, and it helped the fly control of it. Yeah. They were never going to be organic. And probably why is probably a good question. Other than I had it left over. The other thing is what I did, and I'm sort of jumping around here, but in terms of feed, I'd feed my bulls and cull cows some non-organic product. And like lots of times we were always short of hay, I'd cut highway ditches, for example. But I tie it with blue twine, and then I could identify it, you know, blue twine versus orange twine. And so the bulls got non-organic product, and just to extend that, you know. So role of livestock on an organic farm. And I mentioned about the manure and so on, weed control. Now, we tend to think normally just of beef when we talk this, you know, because that's it. But I've had sheep, I've had, you know, pigs. In fact, I did a presentation one day, and I jokingly said, you know, my cows are organic, my sheep are organic, my pigs are organic, my kids are organic, even my dogs are organic. This was on a Saturday. Monday morning, I get a call. What do you feed your organic dog? so you got to be careful what you say. But lots of times, you know, we're missing a bet that we're not using the animals to our advantage, like in terms of, especially sheep, they'll clean up your thistle. That fellow that came in and asked about thistle control just before the presentation started, he, if a person could just had a flock of sheep, they'll clean up with a lot of that stuff, you know, and but you got to put up with sheep, of course. So it, you know, improves financial viability of the farm, establishes pasture and crop. Lots of us have wasteland, especially where I farm south of Regina here, about 50 miles. We have land that's really not good for anything else but cows, right? And so it's it really fits into your system. It used to be, and I'm not sure, Dennis, you may be able to help out. If you were certified with Biosys, you needed some sort of livestock as part of the system because they believed that it was the whole unit. Is that true still? It is, Bob? Yeah. That
It's not necessary.
not necessary.
It's not necessary.
That's
but
encouraged.
They ask about it.
But to help recycle the nutrients.
We should separate those expected.
It's going to get us.
a common answer.
That's what worries us, actually. So we're going to go over a little bit of the livestock standards, and believe me, I'm not an expert at this. I'm sorry Ken's not here. I've gotten them. You know, you got to really follow the standards. I feel, but make sure the inspectors follow the standard. Dennis comes to my place, and we quite often get into discussion. Yeah, you know, where is this in the standard? Right? Like, we're not trying to bend the rules, but just make sure that everyone's following the same standard. And the standards are just going to review. The final vote is just happening now, right, Arlen? And they're
That's just a supplementary review. No, this is review, it's in place.
it's in place, which hasn't changed much in the livestock.
This is just a little tidying up that's
Yeah.
going on right now.
So the big thing is to record everything in terms of health care. You're allowed to immunize or vaccinate for anything that will develop their own immune system. So like Tasvax 8, you can use things like, we've talked, Bryce, you used pink eye vaccine. So any injection that will develop their own immune system is acceptable. Now, when saying that, if
Oh, is there a vaccine for foot rot?
no, he said,
I think there is, yeah. Foot rot.
Not a vaccine. Not an immunization.
They offer it around our area, like,
Okay.
Foot rot. A vaccine against it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Against foot rot.
so
So that saves on the antibiotic.
yeah. The big thing is again, you don't use it unless you have to. But you know, like in our area, black leg is an issue, and so you know, we tend to vaccinate. The 1 year, well, I never revaccinated the heifers. You know, you should, but I never.
One time only. Not, they're supposed to by the thing, but it doesn't, like me, like,
Just do it
you're
one.
like me, I only do it one time.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So
and I've never had a problem with black leg again.
no, I never had either. So you know, again, I was conventional at the time. Everyone was doing scour vaccine, right, to prevent scours. Now I didn't have scours, right? And the vet says, you know, you should be treating for scours. You know, get that vaccine for scours. All I did was introduce scours into my yard, you know. that was a big mistake. And so I had scours like for the last about 3 years in a row, and it was the worst thing. So when you're doing something, you got to be careful. You know, that maybe the treatment's worse than what it's worth. You know, so but and anything in terms of healthcare that anyone else does that. Bryce, what about you?
I think vaccinating is, we vaccinate more than once because we've had issues, because we've only done it once. And that's prevention, not a fix. If you're trying, that's what the whole organic thing
Right.
is about, preventing
Yeah.
the issue, right? You have to take the preventive measures,
Yeah.
because we don't have any other choice.
No, that's right.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
So if you do have like a sick animal that you have to treat, I assume you do that, and then like where do you market that animal afterward?
I send it to the poor guys in McDonald's.
But like how, like realistically, what does that look like? Because that to me seems like that would be a pretty big pain in the butt to like market one non-organic
Yeah.
auction.
Yeah.
You gotta identify it and keep it,
Yeah.
you can run it with restaurant.
Yeah, of course
Go
you
into the
can't sell
organic
it.
stream.
Yeah,
So it's gotta be sold conventional.
We just red tag. I have red tags.
Tag it.
And, you know, we just red tag them, so the calf is that. But interesting, you know, they have a program out there that's, I forget what it's called, where it's a conventional program where they trace injections in it. What's it called? Bob?
Feedlot health?
I can't remember. Anyway, they were running workshops, eh?
So, verified meat?
Verified beef, yeah, that's what it is. And so we went to the workshop, and they gave us a door prize, or each. It's a great big bottle like this, and when we were doing the presentation, they said, well, when you use the needles, you put the needles in the bottle, and this bottle's big, eh? And one guy says, well, what happens when it's full? Well, he said, you take it to the hospital, and they'll dispose of the needles for you. And I said, Jesus, people use that many needles in a livestock operation? Like, you can't believe it.
How many times are you supposed to use a needle? You're only supposed to do like 5 injections with it.
I know, but, you know, like some of these guys are shooting up everything that has a snotty nose and everything, you know, that no wonder people have resistant to antibiotics. Because if you shoot everything up and, you know, as soon as you get the feedlot, what happens? Bang, 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 bang. So, like, I gave mine away because, I mean, like, you don't use that many needles. Like, even in 8 week. I know you're supposed to. I'm cheap, you see, so I use it a little longer.
They taught you that in the course.
Oh, I missed that. So then nutrition, you know, like I talked about the sheep thing. Like it's so important that your animals are fed and treated well. Like the worst thing I think that could be invented was those rail shredders, because you know you probably have one, do you, Bryce?
We use it for putting straw.
Oh, okay. Like you can't make a pig out of, you know, a poke, right? If you got shitty thing going into the bale thing, if it comes out chopped up, it's still crap, right? And that's what's happening. And you know, we had one of the producers that was here from Alberta. He feeds his animals right out without grain. He feeds them high quality alfalfa. He buys it a lot of times from Saskatchewan, and they're all great, you know. And Scott Palmer. So you don't have to put grain into them, but you have to give them good nutrition, right? And that's basically part of the process. Manure management, and again, this will all come up in the standards. There's a rate of application, and that you should try to stay within. And housing, and Arnold mentioned this, you know, as soon as you cram people in and birds in and cattle in, and one gets sick, they're all going to get sick. So it's really important to talk about the stock intensity. So transition and livestock. Are you thinking about transition?
Possibly.
You have livestock?
I do all of this stuff already and have for.
Do you use Acme?
Well, off and on. I've gone like as many as 5 years without it,
Okay.
and then they all get it, even though I have a very low stocking density. And then I'm like, oh, what do I do? And I tried diatomaceous earth, and it kind of works, but not really, so.
Yeah.
And I do, but, yeah. So flax straw is better.
Flax straw is
really
Flax straw works.
Yeah.
We put them out whole, and then they rub on them, and the oil gets in their skin, so the lice can't attach, if there are some.
Or putting
But
flax straw through a
eventually
bale
it's just
shredder.
gone.
Line to lay on.
And you can get an exemption to use non-organic straw, right? Like if you didn't have flax, or didn't have flax straw, is that right? Like can you get, not for,
No. I don't think
no, for bedding?
They eat that much. They
No.
eat
so.
bedding.
We put
They
bedding
eat
on
bedding.
it.
Is that right? I thought sure I saw something about an exemption you could.
Only if there was such a shortage in your area, you could, but you gotta want.
Just for organic breeding stock or for actually organic animals?
Yeah, I would say probably not, unless there's a, that's why I cut chapter.
Yeah.
Seems like,
That seems like
don't tell the inspector
But
too
always
much.
check the certifying bond.
Pardon?
But always check.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's right.
Before you do
That's
that.
right.
as soon as you put straw, they go and take a huge mouthful, just put it out.
Yeah.
Seems kind of weird.
Okay, winter livestock organic, and probably, again, this is not, for most of you guys, it's not going to be anything new, but if they're born or hatched on the farm, organic farm, then they're organic. The offspring of parents raised under organic conditions. The exemption of the transition period are for poultry. Obviously, most of us buy them from chick hatchery, right? And so it's 3-day-old, I think, is standard. Pardon?
They come to us, they're 1 day old.
Okay, but I think with the standard it says as long as they're
Up to 3.
up to 3 days. So obviously they're not breeding stock, right? So, but they allow that, and again, if you're transitioning like cattle, beef cows, it's the last trimester. Usually that's sort of the ballpark. If it's they're managed organically under last trimester, they're considered, the offspring are considered organic. Cows will never be organic, but the offspring will be. Pardon? You got an argument?
Him a question. Oh, no,
Come on, let's. So, and again, I guess, choosing the breed and all of this is, of course, you get into it. A lot of people, for example, yes?
Sorry, I wanted to make another comment on that last trimester because I ran into that a little bit this summer. I know what you're saying when you say those cows will never be organic, like they'll never be organic slaughter stock, but they can continue to produce organic calves. But you can't take them, once they've been managed organically and produce an organic calf,
Yeah,
you can't take them out and feed them conventional and then just start feeding them organic in the last trimester.
No,
Again,
that's a
to
good
produce a
point.
calf.
Yes.
You have to keep them managed organic continually after they've been transitioned.
Now, Arnold, you're part of the standard review. It used to be the old thing that to expand your herd, you were allowed to buy 10% of say, off-farm breeders, like pregnant cows or something like that. Is that still part of the standard?
I don't think so, I think you probably buy as many as you want,
Is that
as
right?
far as I know.
It used to be 10%.
I don't
They're and you're a breeder, from a breeder herd.
Okay.
Because you have a conventional, you could have an organic herd, and then you want to bring in, and maybe you want to double your size, I don't see why you can't. I don't know about, I'm not on the livestock working group, I'm on the crops working group.
I don't think it matters.
I don't think it
I don't think
matters.
it matters?
No.
We've done that, we've expanded 2
Okay.
years ago, when
Yeah.
there was no there's no percentage.
But they're called
But it's the
breeder
same
only.
thing, those cows never be organic and they had to be fed organically the last
Yeah.
trimester.
And then from then on.
Yes,
And they
100%
stay-
organically from now.
But you could probably have a program and bring in heifers to keep your herd young or whatever, and maybe 20 head or whatever.
Well, I guess maybe, I don't know, it wasn't part of the standard, but I guess it was said the philosophy was the same as the keeping your own seed. Guys were selling their heifers, all their heifers, and then
Buying bred.
bringing bred cows in,
Yeah.
or bred heifers.
Right, yeah.
And then it would, the whole thought of, building up the resistance or.
I don't remember any of that ever being in there, but maybe it was something we did before there was standards around.
Well, you're quite a bit younger than I am, so. So, I mean, desired traits are obviously a resistance to disease, easy birthing. Lots of times, I remember big was better. We all went to the idea that we had to have the Charolais bull and the Simmentals. We all gone through it. I had 3 cesareans in 4 days with a Simmental bull, and I thought, these,
Shoot the bull.
yeah, this is, I can go to and brag that I had a 135-pound calf, but that's about all I could brag about.
But it was dead.
Pardon?
I had a 150-pound calf, but it was dead.
Exactly. You want something that's easy to manage and that's marketable. We're part of the organic meat system, and we're looking at a 1,300-pound animal, 1,350-pound animal. To get an animal that's finished at 1,100 pounds is a little tougher to sell, to the retailer, or you get one that's 1,700 or 1,800 pounds, with the T-bones. Again, it's not. So you want something that's consistent and saleable to your retailer. So nutrition. Provide a diet of livestock that are most adapted to consume, and I think that's fairly obvious. Meet the nutritional requirements, again, something very obvious. And livestock must be fed certified organic feed. Now, the only exception to that is what we had ran into last year. Now in our country, we have no hay. And you can get an exemption from your certifier in circumstances that, you either have a fire or the weather conditions, or just there's no, that you can buy either transitional feed or, that's probably the best bet, or in the worst case scenario, they don't want the cow to survive or to suffer, right? And you shouldn't have to suffer economic downturn. Just yes.
Yeah, there is it's a 10-day exemption for use of organic feed in emergency situations.
But how does that work, though, Dennis? I mean, you got in our country. I mean, this is okay if you're in Ontario when your winter's 2 weeks long. We got 6-month winter.
So
I agree. How does that work?
Oh,
Because we've been flooded out for 5 years.
So you can get exemptions for 10 days.
10 days,
But
okay, so
standards
you buy
doesn't say-
500 bales and you're supposed to feed all those within 10 days?
The standard doesn't say that you can't have more than one exemption a year.
What was that?
So you just keep on
Okay.
extending
But
things.
But it can only be 10 days at a time. So check with your certifier and see how they.
Yeah, we were told that we could buy whatever we needed.
As long as we knew that the last 3 years there had never been any fertilizer or anything.
And make sure that we were fortunate, we were able to purchase hay that never had fertilizer or chemical on it.
Yeah.
And then we just made sure that we kept the certified organic hay for the last trimester. So,
Always make sure you talk to your, get that
Sure.
exemption.
yeah, that's the big thing.
I lost
Somebody said that a while
certification
ago
on my
about
cow.
checking with your
I
certifier.
didn't get an exemption, just
And
because
and
I
always
didn't
get
meet
that
the
in writing.
Yeah, we did.
From your certifier.
Yes.
Even emails, print the emails off. You know, because it's, we could all go through horror stories on this one. Young animals require milk, including colostrum, on the first day of life. Right now, there's no provisions for the what do you call it, powdered milk, milk replacer. In fact, it's really frowned on and excluded, right? If you feed them powdered milk.
Like Head Start, like is Head Start's okay, or like colostrum, or no? What's that?
I wouldn't know about that one. You run into that?
Check with your certified.
Yeah. I did.
I didn't think we'd get these tough questions.
From the panel. I did, I can't remember. I kind of think that Head Start was okay, but the milk replacer wasn't.
Yeah, because that's a colostrum.
Yeah,
replacer,
yeah.
not just a milk replacer.
Yeah, I don't think.
But they're
Yeah.
both sourced from the same
Yeah.
origin, though.
But that's why you have to send the label to your certifier.
Yeah.
They'll review it, they'll give you a yes or
Yeah.
a no, because it's not only the fact that it maybe is colostrum, but there might be other ingredients in
Right.
it that aren't approved. So that's why you always got to do the full label.
What I did, I was fortunate for years to have a dairy next to me, and he would always save the colostrum and freeze it in baggies for me. Eh? So always in the freezer, I always had 3 or 4 bags of frozen colostrum, and that really worked out well. So.
Did you send the label to your certifier?
I didn't tell him. Poultry in the finished feed must receive grains, which I'm not sure why that particular one's in there, but this is a part of the standard. Poultry and pigs must receive vegetable matter other than grains as well. So, and again, one of the issues that one of my people that I'm involved with has a poultry barn, a commercial poultry barn, a big one. And he's an organic farmer, but he wants to certify his flock. And but those guys are so nervous with the avian flu and that. They don't want to let their birds up, right? So, of course, the standard is you have to have free access to the outdoors, correct? Yeah. And so he can't get certified organic. He's even willing to decrease the density in the barn, so they have more room and everything else. And so it's a bit of an issue with the bigger units is to get through that stomach bug. And they're so worried about, even mosquitoes, like, getting into the barns, which for most of us, we deal with every day. So, ruminants, 6% of the dry matter in a daily ration of hay, fresh dried fodder or silage. When silage is fed, at least 25% of the ration must be dry hay. And again, that was a really contentious issue at the standards review. But what they're trying to do is to get away from the idea of let's just pump that animal full of grain like the conventional system, and then it becomes it really does the animal in. It ruins their digestive system. The big thing is if you're going into organic, go to the website and Google it or whatever, and go into the standards plus the allowable or ingredients or disallowed ingredients. If they're disallowed, not listed in 32.311 of that standard, don't use it, because you're just getting a pissing match of the inspectors. Pardon? Discertified. Discertified. Yeah, sorry. And
No, they're too nice.
and some are so odd, that you think, well, why is that? But a lot of thought goes into the standards, and we're fortunate to have Arnold as part of the working group, not necessarily the livestock, but to go over these. They're reviewed every 5 years. Medication and veterinary drugs, including hormones and prophylactic antibiotics to promote growth, are prohibited. A lot of it, and again, we used to feed, and every time I use the mixed mill, we dump in this growth hormone and think nothing of it, right? And the idea was if you didn't use it, you were wasting 30 days of feed. You know, that cost you money and so on. So it's disallowed. Medicated feed for poultry is disallowed. So a lot of the if you go to buy commercial poultry feed, for sure, a lot of it is medicated, and so it's disallowed. Approved feed supplements or additives in excess of animals' nutritional requirements. So you can feed too much, I guess. That implies. Feed chemically extracted or defatted with prohibited substance. So anything that, things like blood meal, things that are animal byproducts aren't allowed in feed as well. Other substances prohibited in the feed, any preserving agent. And I've often wondered, does anyone use, when you use, put up silage bales, and they put that stuff on the bales to preserve it? No, it's not inoculant. It's
It's a probiotic.
Is it
It's a
allowed?
bacteria. I've never got it. I've got the labels at home, but I never bothered to see if it was approved or not. Never used it.
Never used it.
Expensive.
I used it.
And are you certified?
No, I used it and I got really good actually.
So do you know what's in it then?
Yeah, like he was saying.
It's bacteria.
Yeah.
Okay. So it should be allowed, or have you crossed that, Dennis?
There's no reason why it wouldn't be allowed. I just haven't got it.
I think it probably would be, but check with your certified.
You see a card, you need a sign.
Press record.
Along
with the assumption
that
it's
products
genetic
though,
engineering.
look back on like, not only for livestock, but, different bacteria that's used in food processing and stuff too. It can be growing on a substrate, like what the bacteria grows on, before it becomes the product you get. There's a concern that the growth media that they use often is like a GMO, like a corn-based or something. And so that's why they like to check up on those products, because that bacteria might have been growing on a GMO substrate is usually the concern.
Most companies with products will have a letter on their website, and you can go right to the company's website, and they'll say that this product was made with non-GMO products.
Okay.
And you can send that into your certifier, and a lot of time that really helps them. They require you to do it if you have a product. But if you go right to the company's website, a lot of them, especially now, right on it, you can just print off that letter that says this product was made with non-GMO.
You know, when I've been certified since 2000, and we used to, every certifier would ask, make sure you got a letter and everything. And people, they used to be really good. And now they're sort of worried that there's going to be a kickback, a liability thing. And it's hard to get labels now, or like ingredient affidavits. Like I used to, vitamin A, D, and E, I used to get a thing that was used non-GMO, carrier. Not anymore, they won't, there's no way they'll give you a letter. So I don't know whether they got a little worried about liability or lawsuits or what, but it's harder.
And they might have detected that just unknowingly that one of the ingredients was made from.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't even know it.
Yeah, that's true too. Anyway, poultry slaughter byproducts aren't allowed, silage preservatives, and that's what made me think about the bales. Except those are listed in the ingredient list. Appetizer enhancer or flavor enhancer. Obviously the implants, like the your implants aren't allowed. Formulas containing manure or other animal waste. And, you know, I think that's a no-brainer, but, you know, in the barns down east, they used to have the chickens up top and they drop down and the cows would eat the droppings, you know, which, well, you think, well, that's good use of recycling material, but they're eating crap, right? And synthetic coloring, and Joel, you already mentioned that, you know, like,
Love that.
yeah, we love that. So, you know, you either use white blocks or in some cases free choice or loose salt.
So Gene, is there a directory somewhere where you can get the approved salt blocks now from?
No, it's
Every certifier is different.
every inspector is different.
I was told you couldn't even use the white block.
Well, because back to canola, I think Dennis is the one that tricked me on that. They use canola oil in the molds, and then when it's pressed, and then this block comes out. Well, it could have trace of GMO canola. Well,
We get salt that's approved.
Yeah.
Pardon?
We're getting salt that's approved from up in Hague there, whatever the name is.
Okay.
And that's from current too, who was that down there?
Is it loose?
Yeah, some of it is, yeah.
Seems like
I got Windsor salt approved as food grade.
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, I got it, they approved it.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. It's food grade, so salt. It's
Expensive?
approved. Well, I just got it through the co-op. They brought it in from
Sorry.
Mel Plain there, I guess that's where it comes from. Most of it. Isn't it?
That's a potash mine there.
I don't know.
Oh, you're probably
Chapter, they used to have one there.
But that's why I went through, I didn't know.
Who's your certifier?
EcoCert.
Yeah, well, they should know.
It seems like, you know, the parts per million on that block would be so minimal after first rain, you wonder. But anyway, I guess it rules.
Yeah.
Livestock production is a land-related activity, and again, we tend to think, you know, all you have to do is watch that movie. Is it Food Inc? You ever seen that movie, Food Inc? If you want to turn off about livestock production on the conventional system, look at that movie and you'll be certifying your herd right away. But within the standards, there's standards of space and exercise and so on. They must have access to the other doors. Don't talk about feeding feedlots, their feeding stations, and a lot of the people that are feeding now have their, even though animals are social beings, like they'll vote together and come back in together, they still have the ability to get to pasture, and it seems to work out.
So Gene, where
Yes.
Joel was mentioning,
Yep.
like you say, access space not there, and Joel mentioned free-range cattle not there, how does that affect their certifying when they go wander off the neighbors not there, break out the ditch or whatever?
Probably just don't mention that. I didn't say that. I wasn't talking about my herd. That was the neighbor.
Take it up with your certifier.
Must be less than that 10 days.
Yeah, I think it's more an issue of intent. If you deliberately open the gate and chase them out there, that's one thing. But if you break through the fence, that's what cows do.
That's a good point, though, because I had an inspector said, how do you move your cattle from pasture to pasture? So I
down the road.
run down the road.
Yeah.
Well, that road's not certified to stop to eat. And I thought, oh my God, you know, like, we're gonna have an issue. I'm gonna skip over some of these points because I don't want to, I don't want to get into Dennis and Wendy and Bill.
I'm just telling you, you're running too fast. You won't stop.
Then that was the PETA thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know, I think this essence of organic production is, it's a no-brainer. You know, you think of the animal versus, like a lot of the conventional things, they don't think of the animal, they think about the dollars at the end of the thing, you know. It's, you know, it makes me wonder about those two women walking down the hall at Agribition. You know, they got their animals tied up, they're so fat they can't walk, they're shot up to keep them quiet, and so on, and they're saying their animals are, you know, they're real animals. Like, you gotta, the approach I take to livestock production is think about the animal versus, you know, think about you. You know, if you have to go at 9 o'clock at night to lock the chickens in, that's protecting the animal. Do I want to go out? No, I want to be watching the riders win. What did I say that about?
When you said. You must always remember, we're process-based standards. It's not the product that we're certifying, it's a process.
That's right.
And if something's wrong with the product, that means the process has failed something, and that's the traceability. So, you know, it's the process-based standards.
That's a very good point, because they're certifying you as a producer, not the product.
Well, we're certifying what we're doing, what we say we're doing according to this set of standards, and there's good reason behind most of those things. Maybe you don't read it sometimes, but you know, and it's discussed and verified by science and by practice, and everything else. But it's process. We certify the process, not the actual product. The product's wrong. If something's wrong with the product, and you contaminated canola with, or you've got contaminated lentils with glyphosate on it, something's wrong in the process.
One thing that I noticed when I was at that standards meeting was there's consumer groups on that panel, right?
Yeah, something like that.
And that's the best thing I thought. You know, there's our marketplace sitting right there, and they have an input into the standards, and they're quite vocal. And I thought, that's great, because like without that, them buying our product and paying a premium, we're nothing, right?
And also, like, certifiers are there, involved, but they don't vote.
No,
they don't have a vote. You create the standard and the certifier applies and CFI regulates it.
Right. Now, I just want to, I don't have any more to go. Well, that's a lie, I'm on slide 27 for 69, so. Can anyone order pizza for mineral management? You know, again, it's self-explanatory. We don't think of it probably as much as we should. I used to take the manure and just, whatever was closest, you know, just dump it because it's a problem. And then I got realizing, you know, I should be doing this, you know, more strategically. And so I put it in my bad spots, and then, you know, it becomes a resource. I never did compost, I always piled. And to call it composting, it gives a definition in the standards and everything else. So I won't spend a lot of time. Raw manure can be applied at least 90 days prior to harvest, or 120 days for crops in direct contact with the soil. They really discourage putting manure. Inspectors asked me, when do you apply the manure? Well, after all the work's done in the fall, when it's frozen, right? Well, of course, they don't like that, because it's, you know, the idea is you should be able to work it in, and it's not, won't be subject to runoff. But usually it's, you know, it's a time management thing more than anything. Again, livestock housing, again, is a no-brainer. It's probably what you're doing right now. Livestock housing, except for lactating cows, continuous tethering is not allowed. And again, that's even going as renewing the standards. That's going to be farmed out in the new standards, that they're not going to allow them to continuously tether livestock animals or dairy cows, which is about time. Housing pens, runs, equipment, and utensils must be clean and disinfected with substance on the approved list. My son raises rabbits. in the standards, it says that you cannot be caged. Well, to raise rabbits, not in a cage, is all darn near impossible. And now, he's sort of gotten around it by using his loft, okay? So he has a big hip roof barn with two lofts. Now, is that considered caged? Or is that a big cage, or is that free range? Now, he has a, but you got to have some sort of control, or else they're gone, right? And the same with finishing. Like, if I was to define it, it's got to be a big cage. It's a big door and it's got 4 walls, right? But there's certain things that if you want organic, you got to use your brain a little bit too, right? Livestock housing. This is some of the examples that some of the people used: free range, or movable pens, and so on. Some of the standards rates. This just gives you an example, and again, they're in the standards, so you don't have to worry about it as such. But like a chicken, for example, layer 6 birds per square meter, and broilers and so on. So, and they have outdoor standards as well. And again, I won't spend a lot of time on them, just to give you an idea that, and I think rightfully so. I think the consumer is expecting a certain level of husbandry, and these standards give us a basic minimum of where we can go. And here's a couple of issues with access to outer doors, and also some of the pigs with the outer doors, access to outer doors. Now, healthcare, we did go over some of it about medication and so on. And as you know, if you treat an animal, like we've already discussed, you should tag it. Anything that develops own immunity is considered approved. The big thing is to keep lots of records. Most guys have a little book that the calf was born such and such and it's tagged such and such. But don't be afraid to put lots of stuff down. Because the more you put down, the more you can refer back to during the inspection, right? And I got a little bit of it deals a little bit more on record keeping, but healthcare, choose the right breed, feed rations meet requirements, appropriate housing, I think we talked about that a fair amount, allow exercise and so on, administer vaccine in accordance with the standards. Only 5 animals per needle. I learned. I didn't realize that. Physical alterations. So far, we're allowed to castrate. We're allowed to use brands, hot brands, cold brands. We're allowed docking of pigs and trimming of teeth. They're allowed when required for control of cannibalism. And so far, I'm saying, okay? Now, will that ever be, the consumer group that's sitting there, will they ever say, well, why are you branding cattle? Or do laughing, so far, we're okay. Keep immunity in mind at all times. Including your own immunity to the chemical. You talk about diatomaceous earth. Did you wear a mask when you put that on?
Yeah, I did actually.
Holy crap, the first time I put that on, I didn't have a mask. I was bleeding from the nose.
Yeah, it's really bad.
What did I do to myself? So, by the way, do you ever put it out for your calves in the spring? I put it out for my calves, free range in tubs. And a lot of times you see the calves licking the soil. I found the calves were always into that stuff. Yeah. And licking it.
No scours.
No scours, eh?
No scours.
Yeah.
They'll actually wait for it. They'll stand there and you can see them licking their nose.
You use it
wait for you to fill up the tub again.
Yeah, good.
And the cows don't seem to want it.
No.
The calves sure go right after.
Yeah. So I'm not the only crazy one, eh? So substances allowed for organic livestock treatment are homeopathic remedies, herbal products, acupuncture, probiotics, and trace elements. I was a sheep producer, and we had a selenium deficiency in the herd, and I didn't realize it, our flock. And the little lambs, they would be born, and then they just sort of like keel over, and they weren't dead, but they just lay there. And so I had the sheep shearer was in, and he said, "Well, give them a shot of selenium." Shot of selenium, I didn't even know what it was. So I literally, it wouldn't have been a half a millimeter, and I shot that thing up, and within 2 hours it was up and going. So trace minerals are allowed. Again, check your survey. We only got 5 minutes left. I'm going to stop. 5. Am I missing anything? The questions are right.
I was just wondering, I'd like to just address that slaughtering and marketing.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you're going to use a slaughtering plant, normally what you would do is you contact the certifier, notify them that you're going to be selling slaughtered animals as organic, and let them know the slaughtering plant. Most of them have a memorandum of understanding that they will get the slaughtering plant to fill out. And if approved, then you can use that slaughtering plant to slaughter certified organic livestock.
I think the standard reads that the abattoir do not have to be organic as the product as it comes back to you, as long as there's no processing. Now, is grinding the meat considered processing? And that's where we got into a little with the Manitoba plant in Oak Ridge, that they ground meat for hamburger. And well, is that processing? Well, they didn't add anything, right? They didn't add a substance, but they considered it as part of the process. So we have to do an inspection there, right? Because of that.
So you're saying the packing plants don't have to be certified, similar to like Lily and Rose seed cleaning has to be certified in order to be a seed cleaner. Why is there 2 different standards?
Actually, I think if it was just if they were cleaning grain and you're an organic farmer and wanted to clean grain in their facility, you'd have a memorandum of understanding.
They do that too.
But they're a commercial seed cleaner. But they want to be a certified cleaner, so they did it themselves.
It used to be that the cleaner had to be certified, but now it's similar to this
So
discussion.
I thought recently it was the other way around, that if you let your grain clean, you had to go to it.
They changed the rule finally.
Yeah, it's changed now to more.
Yeah, that memorandum of understanding is a lot easier than trying to certify a cleaning facility just for you.
See, and then, yeah, I think you're right there, Keith, because like Clear Creek Organics uses a plant in Montreal. They're considered a subcontractor for me. The plant is not organic, but they're certified, they're inspected organically on my behalf. And so they get an inspection because my product, it goes out to the consumer. So they want to make sure the cleaning chemicals and everything are all sort of organic. The plant itself isn't organic.
It's got that attestation.
Pardon?
It's got a attestation, like that.
Well, they call my subcontractor.
It depends who your certifier is, as to what terminology
Oh,
you use.
okay.
That's eco-cert
Yeah.
terminology that you have a subcontractor brings the statement. It's just terminology between certifiers.
Anyway, this is a few of the, the certifiers. You probably downstairs, you probably ran into them all anyway. There's some that are more livestock friendly than others. I won't say which ones.
OPAM.
Well, EcoCert's very good too. I find that they really appreciate, they know some of the problems that we're having with production, like treated fence posts and stuff like that. Anyway, I don't want to run over time and
Well, we're just kind of right at the mark, so is there maybe one more burning question or
Yeah.
a topic that maybe we could cover in a minute or two?
We got told this year that we had to test our well water now every year for the cattle, for certification. How do you test a water bowl and not get any call? Like, how do you do it? Pardon me? Yeah. And they said it was Canadian standard.
Do they
That
say they
it's
want to do
coming
the
in.
watering bowl, they want to do the well water?
Yeah, they want to
Just
do.
do the
Oh,
well
yeah,
water.
but we have sand points, so
Oh,
they're
yeah.
all, like, and
It's-
they said it was Canadian standard and it would be across Canada by next year. It's going to be mandatory that for livestock, you test your water every year on your farm. Well,
Do you have to
I'm
test
sorry,
every
but
dugout?
dugout water is not going to be clean.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
It's because those consumer groups, you think they're great, but I don't think they're great. I think it's horrible. Because the thing that's holding back organic beef production is the standards. Like, not saying in a bad way, but like, if you wanna grow it to something that's gonna be big, you can't do it in an idealistic way.
but that's who our market is.
Yeah.
That's who our market is, and you can't forget that.
Yeah, but you can't make something, because the market's here and we're down here. You gotta be a certain size to even hit the market.
Oh, so you could talk to NBC if I
Yeah.
No.
If you make any stipulations, you just.
Okay.
But the answer is you need a water inspection, water test.
Yeah.
Just do a water test on your well. When the inspector comes, here's your water test. Because you and I all know the calves in the spring will go over and pee, you know, and drink that.
Yeah, that's bad.
You know, and they'll do that.
The wild turkeys come into your water bowl.
Well, that's right. So take the cleanest one, and I've always done it. Cleanest one, have it tested, you have it tested.
Not to defend the standards, because they're always evolving and stuff, but the standards are looking to be applied in a broad way.
Yeah.
And we, here, the standards seem ridiculous to us because of the way with the manure application and all and all that kind of stuff. But they're trying to apply it to really intense operations in like, you know,
Canada
Warner,
wide, yeah.
Ontario, or
Yeah.
something like that. And so they're trying to encompass it all. And that's why often when we have these conversations, your certifiers say, well, this is what I'm using for water, and this is how it comes out and stuff, and you say, this is why I don't have a water test, or something like that. And you just need to keep that conversation open all the time, because there are different circumstances that can be dealt with. It is written in the standards, yes, that is law, but there is ways that we can still make it work for us. And there's ways to do adaptations and stuff, and the work that Arnold does.
If I could just ask, it's kind of a question, kind of a comment, but with, out where I am, west of Edmonton, there's been a lot of discussion of this new roundtable, Canadian roundtable on beef sustainability. There's coming from the Canadian Cattlemen's Association. It started out as McDonald's had a program to do with beef sustainability. And I'm just wondering, has the organic community been in on those discussions? Because they're setting a standard for beef all across Canada. They have their own checklist. It's an audit system, much like we have with organics.
So check with the lady from Coda here, she could probably tell you. She just presented a while ago.
But I guess what I'm saying is as a group of organic producers, we need to make sure that our voice is heard, because they could come out, they probably already have come out with a set of standards. Now, is there any point in that we're going to be in conflict with that? Because Canadian beef, regardless of whether it's organic or any other market stream that they could conceive of, we all have to be able to work under that new standard. We can't simply say, we are organic, therefore you don't apply to us, because we do, because it's going to apply if we want to send organic beef to the States. We won't just have to meet the organic standard to get into the States. We'll have to meet the Canadian standard that the Americans now accept. So I just wanted to throw that out there, is that as beef producers, we need to make sure our voice is heard at that table.
That's a good point.
Just
That's
on.
very true. A lot of things that, I don't know if you were noticing for so long, but a lot of things that I see happening with the livestock right now, and you know, like, let's get these standards working for us, let's get the markets developed and all that kind of stuff. I kind of see that maybe that's kind of where grain was, maybe like, you know, 10, 15 years ago, it was like, well, we can't buy that sort of business, and it's kind of just a different commodity, but the same kind of discussion. And, you know, and things have kind of moved along, that the grain has become a larger commodity market, whether that's the goal that everybody wants to achieve, not necessarily, but it's very similar discussion. Well, I think maybe we will, we'll cap the discussion there, not that it's finished by any means. We'll all be back at Organic Connections in 2 years. This room will not be big enough to contain all the people interested in livestock. It won't be the dessert. It'll be one of the main shows for sure. But thank you everybody for sticking around. This was great knowledge to have you know, all this experience in the room. Everybody with so much background. So please do keep the discussion open. Comments that we've had is this is what we need to do for livestock. Just never stop commenting about it, because that's how we get things done. So I think we need to say a big thank you to Jean and Joel for being here, and now to